The gubernatorial candidates, so if you have not signed in with me, if you would please move to the front. I will start from the left, and if you would please introduce yourself, and you have 2 minutes.
I'd like to thank the Oro Vera Church of the Nazarene for hosting this forum and inviting me to speak. There are several things about my candidacy for Congress that are unique. I'm the only candidate with a PhD. I'm the only libertarian. I don't owe any special favors to any big parties. And perhaps with the exception of Brian Miller sitting to my left, the only candidate with a basic constitutional message of restraining government and not restraining the people. As a libertarian, I share some things in common with both parties, but I do not suffer the narrow-minded tunnel visions of either of them. What myself and the Republican candidates will focus on today is how we were against Democrat tyrannies like cap and trade, healthcare bill. But what the Republican candidates ignore is how Bush recently eroded our Fourth Amendment freedoms under the Patriot Act, and how they started the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan that have drained our economy. They also failed to realize that Senator McCain has put forth a bill, S-3081, which will allow U.S. citizens, which will allow the president to decide if U.S. citizens are to be able to be detained indefinitely. I will work to repeal the Patriot Act, and I'll oppose any new bill that aims to take away your freedom.
Your name? Stephen Stoltz, thank you.
Thank you, folks, for coming out. My name is Brian Miller, and I'm running for the U.S. House of Representatives for the seat that Gabrielle Giffords is sitting in. I've spent now nearly 12 years as an Air Force officer, nearly 11 as active duty, and now I am a reservist at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, and I teach youngsters how to fly the mighty A-10 Warthog. I'm a combat veteran of the Afghanistan theater, and if you didn't have a chance to meet my beautiful wife Allison here as you came in, I hope that you do on the way out. She's quite a woman, and for putting up with a run for Congress, because it's a long and arduous task, as I know you know. But it's incredibly important because of the nature of the world that we live in and the direction that our country is going. I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and I vowed to protect it with my life. And I view this run for Congress as an extension of that oath. I'm running on a platform of border and national security, more jobs and less taxes, and I'm the only advocate for term limits. I believe that when politicians stay in Washington long term, they don't get smarter and better. They get more corrupt and more powerful over time. And I think the proof is in the pudding. And I think that sometimes we lose the focus and debate too much on whether or not the power is on the left side of the aisle or the right side of the aisle. But as conservatives, we must always remember that it's not so much where the power lies, but that there's just too much power. And so I would ask you to remember that. You can clap. And I would ask you to remember that when you go to the ballot box this August 24th to vote in the Republican primary. And as independents, any independents in the room, you can vote there too. And remember that we need to stand on principle and send someone to Washington from this district, the most important border district in the country, to stand on principle. My name is Brian Miller, and I'm going to ask for your vote.
Thank you very much. I'm Jonathan Payton. I've been accused by some of my supporters of not getting enough signs out, so hopefully we rectify that today. You know, people are going to talk about what all the main issues are in this election. Right? I want to say this. This election is not going to be about health care. The main issue in this election is not going to be about spending. The main issue in this election is not even about illegal immigration. The main issue in this election is the Constitution of the United States. at the Virginia ratification of our Constitution, they said, we do not trust our liberty with a particular branch of government. We need one branch to be a check on the other. My question is, has Gabrielle Giffords been an effective check and balance on the executive branch of government, or has she been a rubber stamp? My question is, has she shown her loyalty to her constituents, or has she shown her loyalty to Nancy Pelosi? Do you want to have a leader like Gabrielle Giffords, or do you want a leader with guts? I've got the guts to be your next congressman. I believe that you have to show what you've done in the past to be able to demonstrate that you have a great chance not only of winning, but of leading in this Congress. When the City Council of Tucson decided they were going to use the Rio Nuevo system as a piggy bank, I took that piggy bank away from it. When they started teaching Rasa studies in our schools, tried to separate our students, I said enough is enough. And when the federal government and other people decided that they weren't going to do anything but talk about illegal immigration, I not only supported Senate Bill 1070, but I voted for it. I've got the guts to be your next congressman. I've served in the legislature, and I've served admirably, and I promise I will be the best person you can get. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonathan. Jesse?
Hello, I'm Jesse Kelly, and for too long we've left politics to the politicians, and that's why we're in this mess in this country. I am a conservative Republican running for Congress. I'm a Marine Corps combat veteran. I led a squad of infantry Marines during the Iraq invasion. I'm a husband and a father. One child and one on the way, and both of them are buried in debt because of this federal government right now. I'm also a businessman, and as a businessman, I understand, unlike the politicians, that you don't spend more than you take in. And if I spend more than I take in, I get fired. I don't get to go back and tax the citizens for more. Liberalism in both parties is destroying this country, and it's time we do something about it as conservatives. It's time we fight for the Constitution. Tens upon tens of thousands of Americans have fought and died for freedom because we are the greatest country in the world. And why don't any politicians say that anymore? No. We get apologized for to countries like Egypt that will be speaking German were it not for the blood and sweat of American troops. We are magnificent, and we're not finished yet. We've come this far, and it's going to take a lot more than a community organizer from the streets of Chicago to rip this country apart at the seams. We're the greatest country in the world because we believe in God, and we believe in freedom, and we don't sacrifice those beliefs for anybody, nor will we ever. I'm going to beat Gabrielle Giffords badly in November. I'll be your next congressman, and we're going to go to war with Washington, D.C. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jesse. The first question and the responses will begin with you, Steve. How will you protect citizens from the border violence?
Border violence is always protected by police and government troops. As far as the illegal immigration problem, that's a much more complicated situation. Illegal immigration is a result of misappropriation of funds and entitlements, and I will focus on the entitlement aspect of the problem.
Brian?
When you go down to further south in Arizona, and you go and you talk to folks in towns like Douglas and Portal on the east side of the Chiricahuas, you'll run into families whose houses have been ransacked and invaded literally dozens of times. Folks, our fellow Arizonans, our fellow Americans are living in a state of siege along much of the border area. Our district here is home, if you want to call it that, to about 40% of the entire illegal immigration problem that occurs in our entire country. What we need to do is we need to put the Border Patrol on the border. We currently have 20,000 Border Patrol agents. Fewer than 10% are actually on the border. They exist 20 and 50 miles in at static stations and headquarters. We need to put them on the border. It's something that could happen tomorrow. It's cost effective, and it would force them to do their job. As a congressman, I will look at the funding apparatus and how the Border Patrol is funded and take away the malincentives for them to allow people across the border in order to boost their numbers and increase their funding.